something that's been very enjoyable and helpful to me on this trip so far have been my Maven, that's the S1 spotter, 20 to 40. Really, really cool, has that built-in sunshade. It's a breakdown style body, and I can actually angle it so I can look through it while I'm shooting. Right now I'm using my phone to help spot and record, and then I have the RF1, and the RF1 has been absolutely essential in all that I'm doing. Love this combination, the fact that I can sit down here and shoot pretty much all that I need out to 2,200 yards from this position with that particular rifle. And I can see it all really well with this gear. So well done to Maven, because this stuff is next level. We've got 2 miles that way, 1 mile right here, and then plenty at around the 1,400 yard mark in front of me. I'm shooting some 300 PRC off to the side, but I can't tell you how important a good rangefinder is just based off of my experience right now. I didn't know, because this isn't my home range, I didn't know which target was what distance. And instead of going through and milling each target, literally having to mill the targets for distance and do the math, I was able to just zap it with this thing. 1 click, really fast response times. These are relatively small targets for shooting at a mile and 2,000 and 2,200 yards. They're relatively small, but this allowed me to get consistent reads because I knew ahead of time that there were targets at certain distances, and this allowed me to distinguish which targets were which and make sure I'm shooting at the right one and then I have the right data. Although I have miles of openness, I think there's probably 20,000 acres of openness behind this, I just don't like not getting the right data and doing irresponsible things. I'm pretty safety conscious, actually. It's just I would hate to have a mistake. It would be the worst thing ever. And so I just want to make sure I know which target is which. And because of this, I was able to laze the target and make sure I could write it down and get myself a little map here off to the side so I can engage target to target and work my way out to 2,200 yards. So really, really happy with this. The image was excellent in this daylight. Obviously, everything's going to look a little better, but no mirage really to work with today out of this. It's a 7X, so not going to see too much with that, but the actual visibility was really good. And I could distinguish details and I could focus in and make sure I was getting the right read. And I would do 3 reads per target to make sure I was getting the right distance. And this thing is very, very consistent. I'm happy with that. Okay, as you can see here, I'm on the field setting and I'm at 302 yards. I'm ranging this several times over, hitting different parts of the same target. There's some light spots and some dark spots on this target. There's a slight variance. There's a 1 yard variance between light spots and dark spots here, which is pretty common on all laser rangefinders I've ever used. I mean, north of $1,000, under $1,000, they all seem to have a little variance for light spot and dark spot, if you're being really particular about it. I've been testing it against the, which one is this? This is the Inkerma, which is like a budget rangefinder over here. It's a 6X. It does have a decent reticle in it, a couple features on it, but it does not have a 1/4 inch on the bottom. It's more of a handheld, so I had to put it in the LuxGun RFM mount. And between the two, so I'm getting 302, 303 on the Maven, which is, again, spot on. Now I'm going to move this around and try out the Inkerma, and I'll tell you what I see here. Okay, on the Inkerma, it took me about 5 minutes to get this to kind of read something. I have to be honest with you, I've had some trouble with this one. Any kind of shadow, any kind of dark spot at all, even on the target, this one really struggles to get a good read. Light colored targets, it does well, as long as there's sunlight out. And I was able to get a reading of 302 on a light spot, but I cannot get this to read on much of the target. It's taken me a long time just to get a single read on this, and I'm off the tripod, I'm stable, the reticle's right on there, the image is sharp. I'm just really struggling to get this one to perform well. And like I said, I've gotten 302 a couple times. I got 200s and then like 310 a few times, so this is going to have a more air in it than I can put up with. Let's go ahead and try out the Vortex Diamondback 2000. It can read it every time, but it was reading a little bit long. It's reading about 305, which isn't terrible. It's not too bad. And then it was coming up with 300.5 quite a few times. So it's hitting something in there. It's just ranging differently, but it's right on that target. The reticle on this one is a circle. And I don't know why it is. It's bouncing back and forth between those two numbers. A little bit inconsistent, but I have had, generally good luck with this one. It has more variance. This has more variance than the Maven has had so far on ranging near like distance targets. And then obviously the Maven can go much further than the Vortex can. Just having a little more issue, and I don't think it's just the reticle. It appears to be reading things slightly off. So points to the Maven. The Maven has gotten it exactly, basically exactly right. Each time I've ranged it, close distances, this is still kind of close to me. 300 yards is still close. But then as I've been stretching it out quite a bit further, it looks like there's just more variance in general. Yeah, bounces between 300.5 and 305. So it's right in there. I've got it to read 302, and I've tried to be really fair with both of these, but it looks like the Maven just gets it right. Now I'm a step closer here. I've run a tape from this spot right here. I've got a spot on the ground that I know is a reference line. I've run this out to a fixed target we've had out here for years. I know what it is. It's 102.5 technically yards, and I would be fine if it got it down to a yard, because all of these have, I think, a half yard to 1 yard variance. It's very common for them to allow for that much error, and that's what it is error. There could be an inconsistency in that reading. I'm going to go ahead and start with the Maven again. I might try out the Inkerma again, but I will try out the Vortex. Just going to see what it comes up with. I do find that the other ones are struggling to be as consistent, and I've got right there. I'm going to move around the target a little bit, but every single read was 102.5. And this is calibrated really well for long distance ranging. I didn't expect it to be super precise, closer and closer. I just needed it to be generally close, but this at 100 yards, it's 102.5, and it's got it to the T. It's exactly there, and I ranged it a bunch of times. Now I'm going to switch over to the Vortex. Okay, and I've used the Vortex quite a bit in the past. Yeah, I'm getting an error. Just a little bit of trouble finding the target, a little inconsistency. Getting 104 yards, so I do have error again. Now, I found that the Vortex did really well between 600 and 1,000 yards. My numbers were really consistent there. I don't know if it's just the way it's calibrated or what. My lenses are clean. You have your emitter and then you have your receiver on the bottom on both of these. But the Diamondback just doesn't have the same features. And now I'm getting different numbers again. And the target is exactly in the center. Getting 104, 105, 106. What is going on? Let's go back to this guy. Okay, well, that's that. The Diamondback is just not getting consistent reads. Would it make a huge difference for you? Maybe not. With 22 it would right now. And the Inkerma is having a little trouble reading it. It's a dark target, it's hard to read. I'm getting 104 yards and 96 yards back and forth. I'm gonna go with 104. It's probably a little bit of error in that again. So right where I'm standing, right here, is 102.5. The Maven has it again. I'm really impressed with this. This is outstanding actually so far. I'm so happy to see that this is down to the yard, although they do advertise that it has some variable error allowed, and so I don't want to make it sound like it's perfect in everything. It's going to have a little error. And then there's you as the user. Surprised that the Vortex is having as much difference as it is. Okay, yeah, the win goes to the Maven once again. Now I've got a target in front of me that's at 22 yards. I'm going to see what they can all do. This is relatively close for these style rangefinders. Let's see what they can do for this distance. Uh, 23.4 on the Inkerma, which is an error. It's not a lot, but it is an error. I've adjusted the lenses to focus, so this should be right. Camera's not going to interfere with this. Oh, geez. The Vortex has 24.2. And I've got 23 on the Maven. So Maven was the closest, I think, out of all of those. We're at 22 yards, and I got 23. So a little bit too far, a little off. I think the variability on the Inkerma and the Vortex is just a little bit more than I would like to see, especially if you're trying to do precision shooting. Hunting-wise, I suppose there's some more room for error there. It's kind of okay. But if I'm trying to range something, I want the range for a reason. I want to get it right. So the Maven, once again, has it on the close and the intermediate, and I need to do a little bit more really, really long range testing now to see what I'm getting for really far distances. I will tell you, the glass is superior in the Maven. Hands down, it's better than both of them. The reticle options are better, and I like the the interface of what I'm seeing in there, as well as the focus knob. This one makes a lot more sense than the Vortex. I like the standoff, the cups, twist out cups on this with the diopter better than the Vortex. Just personal preference, I suppose. And the Inkerma is pretty budget minded, so I'm not even going to put that in the same category. That one doesn't twist the same way. Sometimes I just like to record on this barrel of plutonium I've been saving, for a special occasion or something. I understand not everyone's going to get excited about a rangefinder. That's usually because most rangefinders can't do what this one can do. This is Maven's premium model. The footprint is very good. It's going to fit in pocket like the vest I'm wearing right now from Savage. Thank you to Savage Arms for sending this out to the channel. Awesome duck down vest. It fits in there really well. It's not hard to fit in there because it's 4.7 by 3.1 by 1.8 inches. It is fairly lightweight. It's only 10 ounces. It is water resistant. And then check this out. Its effective yard range is from 5 to 4,500 yards. And I have tested that out. I'm going to talk to you more about that in a little bit and how incredible that is, and a little bit more about the field and forest function, considering that. It can do line of sight or angle compensation. Again, it does it very well. You're not going to find many that can do this much under $1,000, and this is less than half of that. Very good price. So field and forest function, which is kind of like an obstruction filter. So if you need to work through things in the woods to range a bigger animal, you're working around brush and leaves and tree, pine boughs, that sort of thing. That's kind of what the difference between those functions would be, simply put. There's 5 reticle options in this, which is really great. A lot of times you're stuck with 1 or 2, usually just 1. This has 5 options. You have 5 levels of intensity for brightness, which I have already found very useful between early morning when I don't need much, and then when it's peak sunlight and I need a lot. This dial controls that. It is really clear glass. That's something that Maven has prided itself in all of their products. They strive to be some of the best glass at their price points, and I think they do. This one clearly stands out against the other rangefinder that I owned, and I'm probably going to sell soon. Really good color. Color looks really good. It's not ugly. These have phase correction coatings. They are tripod adaptable. This has a 1/4 inch thread underneath, and I've mounted my own plate on here because it doesn't come with a plate, and that's totally fine. It has a lifetime warranty. That's another thing that's very important. A rangefinder, even one with a lanyard, you might drop. You might be using it out in rocky country. You drop it, you smoke it on one of the lenses, something like that happens, and you know you've invested money. If you've bought something like this, they're not free, and they're not cheap for a good reason. This is a serious piece of equipment that serious hunters and long-range shooters, competitors want to use. And so a lifetime warranty makes a lot of sense. Now, let's talk about range distances. When I say 4,500 yards for this, what am I talking about? Essentially, I'm talking about reflective targets, like white targets that I've been able to range with this. Depending on the reticle option that I choose, if I use a big range target, like a full size or 2 IDPA targets next to each other, this can do it at 4,400 yards in that range. And it's very, very impressive because it's only a 7X. But it's good glass, and with good glass, technically, you don't need as much magnification because you can generally just see better. And contrast, clarity, color, and all that is really good on this. If you're trying to do trees, like a tree line, that's not very reflective. Those are typically dark colors, kind of dull. It can still get it at 3,000 yards. If you were trying to range a deer, and let's say you had some sort of optimum, body shot on an elk or a deer or a moose, you could expect at max somewhere around 2,700 yards. And then if you needed to range, so you're doing air gun hunting or you're using it for a bow and arrow, you've got something in really close. For me, it would be a pellet rifle shooting with squirrels. This can do up to 5 yards, so you know exactly what your hold needs to be. A lot of times when I get to a hunting location, I range several big areas and I write down a little map. I have a little picture in front of me. I'll write them down. So I'll use my rangefinder and I'll draw a little sniper map of the area I'm in, and it has distances on my map. So when I see a critter walk in, I know exactly what distance it's already at, and I can trust this because it does field and forest, which in Minnesota is incredibly important. So as close as 5 yards, and if you're real crazy and you want to take long shots, you can do long shots. Now, accuracy is going to be pretty good, plus or minus a yard, for around that 300 to 2,000 yard marker, which is insane. The variability is only 1 yard difference between 300 and 2,000 yards, which is really, really far, and 1 yard difference should not make a difference. If you're really close, it's 0.5. 0 to 300 yards, variability is only half a yard difference. And then if you're getting out to that 2,000 to 4,500 yard range, that is really far, and you're going to have a 3 yard variability difference because that's just what you could see for error in any really good rangefinder. It's impossible to get it down less than that. I'm pretty sure nobody has error less than that. It's just really, really tight. The acquisition time is like 1/4 of a second to 3 seconds at the most. So that's, again, really fast. In a hunting scenario, it's going to be, let's say you're at 600 yards, it's going to be like maybe a second if you're struggling a little bit. It's very, very fast. The eye relief is 17 millimeters on this, which is pretty good. Light transmission is around 77%, which makes sense considering this is a 25 millimeter, and the way that these are optically set up, I don't expect a 90% rating on something like this. 77 is enough to get it done for sure. Again, IPX kind of waterproof rating, so don't leave it in the water for a long time, but it can handle your rain and your downpours just fine. This one happens to have a magnesium aluminum combination body, and it runs on a CR2 battery. That battery life is good for something like 3,000 plus ranging cycles. So clicking that button 3,000 times, maybe up to 3,500, you could get somewhere in that neighborhood, which is amazing. I think operation temperatures is interesting. They say 23 degrees to 140 degrees. So I've run it in much colder temperatures and it's still operated just fine. I'm not going to recommend it, but even in extreme cold, it's done really well. And lastly, if you're curious about the place of origin, I just think it's worth throwing out there. These are not made in China. These are made in the Philippines. Very briefly, I just thought it'd be more convenient to show you reticles this way. Sometimes it's hard to get behind the camera. And there's an example of, sorry, with the flicker on the screen, there's an example of the reticle options you have. I really like those diamonds, and I like the center dot. Having the ability for precision and something that guides my eye to the center quickly, depending on if I'm in the field, forest, long range, or close range stuff, that is going to make a big difference to me. So just something worth showing you. Then you can see you have your scan, compensation, you have line of sight, field, or forest, and it's going to let you know about everything, including your battery. So that's very important. You don't want to go out with a halfway dead rangefinder and not know it or forget that the battery's low. So that's very convenient. And I want to say good job to Maven. This display is very well thought out. The reticle options are very well thought out, and I'm a big fan of what I see. Here's a use case for me in a scenario that I run into pretty often. I do like to shoot rimfire and air guns, actually. This is a really high quality, it's like a $700 Springer underlever air gun. It's great for shooting quietly and safely and not over penetrating. It's good for the gophers, which is basically what I'm zeroing for right now. The thing is with, excuse me, the thing is with air guns and 22s in general, you really do see a lot of drop. You have a lot of rise. It's a big rainbow, and the further you get, the bigger the rainbow is, and the steeper the drop-off is. So you need your distances to be just right. And the difference between 25 and 50 with a rimfire, well, there's a little bit. It's not enormous, but you could miss a target if it was small enough, definitely. When it comes to an air gun, you absolutely will miss that target if you don't have the right distance and you don't have the right data, and you're not using the same pellet. The variables are just enormous when it comes to air guns. And that's kind of one of the things that makes it fun for me. But this rangefinder and the ability to use it very, very close, I can switch between field and forest, of course, and I can range to make sure I'm at exactly 25 yards and exactly 50 yards and exactly 75 yards. It's really easy for me to set up my targets like this, range back and forth. I usually range one way and range the other way just to double check everything. And then I have really, really good data, and you can put that into your ballistic software and solvers and all that. But having a rangefinder for something like this, even though it's close and this RF1 can go extremely far, it's nice to have something that's reliable with the closer numbers. I have found some of my other rangefinders didn't do as well, and I got some inconsistent numbers when I was on the closer end. The further out I would go, it would do a little better on some of the other rangefinders, but this one does really well close and really well far as well. If I go around behind me, I actually know the exact, I don't know if can you see it there? You probably can't, but you can see a tip of a red shed over there. I know the exact distance because I have measured it out many, many times. It says 473 from where I'm sitting right now, and I think I was at 476 when I actually measured it, which was from an anchor point over there. So yeah, it's probably a 3-yard difference from where I actually originally marked it when I was online. It's exact. So I find this to be really, really useful, and when it comes to hunting, it helps me get ethical kills. All right, everybody, after months of using this, I'm going to really quickly wrap up my closing thoughts. And I am going to do a bit of a comparison. I'm not trying to bash Vortex at all. I just have this as a comparison. I've only owned 4 or 5 rangefinders, and so far the Maven is easily the best that I've ever had. It's not just the features, it's also the build quality and the thought behind it. So I had a Vortex Diamondback. This is their HD 2000, and it's good for out to a mile if you're really steady. It does have 8x versus the 7x. But I do find that I get more misreads with it. Every time I range something, like I'll range right now at, I know there's a target at 1408 from right where I'm sitting. I was able to get 1408 right now, but earlier today I was getting like 423, 440, and I couldn't figure out, am I going beyond the target? How is that happening? Glass quality on this, not as good, and less features by far. It does have a pocket clip, and it's reversible. But other than that, there's just not that much going on with the Vortex. I guess it does come with the case. That's one thing I'll say positively. The Vortex comes with a case, and I think that's kind of nice if I didn't just always carry rangefinders in a pocket. That's basically how I carry them. Maybe wrapped around my neck. Depends what I'm doing, if I'm hunting or not. So there's some cool things there. It's not a piece of junk, and Vortex is a just fine company. just going to tell you that the Maven is light years beyond it. When it comes to image quality, the image quality is easily better. 1408, just free holding it here. 1408 and 1409. Stability factor is really great on a 7X in the first place. It's a 7x25. I'm going to tell you that the functions on this, the ability to change reticles, the ability to increase brightness, the tactileness of the focus wheel is actually kind of a big deal to me. I like that it's very clear and distinct as I'm going between settings, and I can clearly sharpen an image. I've used this for spotting for friends at over 1,000 yards, and then today I was just looking at prairie dogs running around at 1,200 yards, and I was using this, and I could make them out. So I think this is a superior product versus this one. And again, it's not trying to bash anybody else. I'm just saying I'm personally going to lean towards this pretty heavily. I know it's a little bit more expensive, but let me explain to you why I think it's better. Number one, response time. The Vortex is just a little sluggish. I find it to be a little slow, and it struggles in low light, like most rangefinders do. But this one struggles way less. And actually, I used this until 9:15 at night last night. And I was ranging targets out to 1408 and then occasionally at 1920. So at 1920, it was fairly dull. I had a brown target, and I was getting successive hits with this in that low light setting. It's basically right at the minute of sundown. Getting successive good reads, whereas I was getting misreads with this. And I just find that this is slower, and it has many more misreads. So that's just, something to think about. This one, I love the features. The fact that I can change the reticle, just the feel, the actual feel of Maven products, the quality of it is way better. This isn't bad. It's got kind of like a grippy texture to it, but Maven just has that next level quality. So whether you're a hunter or a long range shooter, I think this just fits my gear better, to be honest with you. It's a higher quality product, and it fits the quality of the brands that I'm representing and the optics that I'm shooting. The experience behind it is really, really good. I would say the glass is easily a step up from this one. And the image is easy to get sharp, again, because of that nice tactile focus wheel. Field of view is pretty good. Response time is really good. The ability to go line of sight or actually adjusting for angulature, switching between field and forest is not a small thing. It's actually, now that I've used it, now I can see how useful it is to pierce into the woods when you have other things you're not trying to range and get at. The low light performance is just outstandingly better on the Maven versus the Vortex, and there's no way to get around it. It's way, way better. That's something that matters for me because I'm not always shooting in perfect conditions, and sometimes my targets are brown, like if I'm ranging deer. And so it's not just a features thing, it's actually the build quality, and I would say it's the function of the device. The RF1 is my favorite rangefinder. Like I said, I've only had 4 or 5, but if I didn't have this with me today, I'm not exaggerating, I would have wasted hundreds of dollars probably shooting at the wrong targets at the wrong distances, and this allowed me to get good reads and make corrections to actually engage the right targets by just very quickly putting it up, getting a quick laser on the target. And then I was using the S1 spotter from Maven today for recording footage. So this as a pair, they're so nice. They look really cool. I think aesthetically, they're just very pleasing. In my opinion, I think they look awesome. Just that extra flair. So whether you're a hunter or a competitive shooter, my opinion is Maven definitely has it down. This is a better design. It works better. And I'm pretty pleased with it. I think you guys would be too. If you get one of these, don't forget to maintenance your rangefinder by cleaning off the lenses after shooting on dusty days like today. That's something you got to do, clean out the eyepiece. But aside from that, guys, I really like it. I would actually say I love it. It's probably the best tool that I've used in 2025 so far.